Hi, welcome to our newest class, which is going to be entitled, Is There Ger Toshav Today? Okay, we are teaching Is There Ger Toshav Today. Who is this class for? If you are in a place of leadership, a rabbi, you teach non-Jews, you're interested in non-Jews, you're a non-Jew interested in whether or not you exist, i.e., are you a Ger Toshav? Is there Ger Toshav? Where are there Ger Toshav? This is a Jewish class. This is not a non-Jewish class. We're going to speak with Yeshivish and Hebrew, maybe some Yiddish, Aramaic, Jewish, da-da-dee, da-da-da. If you fall within those parameters, this class is for you. And I have a little note here. So if you see me looking off to my left, I have a little note here. Other things we're going to accomplish today. The World of the Ger, our book, which if you're listening to this class, I assume you probably have already investigated some thought time or whatever in the World of the Ger. How was it written? Who was it written for? Who's in the World of the Ger? Shabbat. What's the style of the World of the Ger? And who else spoke about World of the Ger matters? We're going to cover that. We're going to cover the Brisker Rav, once again, our famous Brisker Rav. And he's going to be the linchpin of the whole thing. Okay, I'm letting the cat out of the bag now. So by the end of the class, you should have a very good understanding of the Brisker Rav. And we're going to go into Rav Hutner. A new dimension to our Ger Toshav world. The time is just before 1 o'clock, so by 2 a.m. we should be finishing up, right? The main work we are going to focus off of. Let me show the camera what we're doing. This is called the Avoda Brura. Alright, it's on Avodah Zarah, and it is an amazing likut of every major perush written on our famous sugya, Ezehu Ger Toshav, Avodah Zarah 64b. All the Rishonim are going to take up that lashon, Ezehu Ger Toshav. Who is a Ger Toshav? The Achronim are going to follow suit, and that is the hemshech of the entire sugya. Who is a Ger Toshav? I'm going to try to point out the most ikar perushim on this sugya. So if I stumble around in between paragraphs, it means I'm looking for what is exactly apropos to our sugya. I encourage you to at least look at the book, buy the book, whatever you need to do. Look inside. Don't take my word for it. Look inside, look it up. I promise you will see some tremendous chidushim in this book. All the perushim are basically saying the same thing. There really is no chaotic function here. Everyone agrees on the same principles. Only little ins and outs do they disagree. It does not change the nafkamina of the din. That's why we are so confident that there's a Ger Toshav today. There really is nobody saying there isn't a Ger Toshav today. I think it's an underlearned sugya. In 2,000 years, we had no reason to learn the sugya this well. And now with the advent of the internet, there's plenty of reason to learn this. And I invite you and encourage you to a wonderful experience in learning. Let me cover my little notes right now, just to get them out of the way. Alright, so, again, the first issue is, who are we speaking to? Who am I speaking to? Who is not inside the book, right? The book deals with certain people, i.e. non-Jews, and everybody else that is not in that little circle, I'm talking to you. Number one, the book is not written for a Jew. Number two, it is not written in the style of a Jew. So if you're looking in the book for Mamish, Dafka, Lechura, Pashtus, Mamish, Ikar, Pshat, all these little yeshivish isms, if you're looking for the word juxtaposition, you won't find it in the book. If you're looking for Kol V'chomer, you won't find it in the book. If you're looking for anything Jewish, you won't find it in the book. Let me tell you a story about how this style came about. I started writing articles for Noahides looking in the Parsha, every Parsha trying to find non-Jewish Torah, right? So let's just say in the book of Shemos, when Klal Yisrael went to Mara, and they were commanded there in the 7 laws, and Paraduma, Dinim, and was it Shabbos, I think, right? So the Klal Yisrael had the din of Bnei Noach at that time. So, however many years ago, I wrote an article explaining how before Sinai, everyone was not a Jew. They were in fact Gerim. When I would write my articles, right, I would try to end off in kind of like a poetic function, right? And I would say, yada, 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 and Jews and Gerim working together, how great it is, kumbaya, blah, 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 blah. And that's why, blah, 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 because God loves Gerim, and we should love Gerim too. Something along those lines every week to, make it feel nice and of the Lev rather than the Moach. And I would share these articles with my co-author, Chaim Klurfin, and we got in a lot of fights. And everybody had the same comment. You're saying that God loves the Ger, but doesn't God love Jews too? And everybody said this to me. Doesn't God love the Jews too? Now, think about that, because you're probably thinking about it too. When we say that Gerim can do more mitzvot or whatever it is, and it's like, hey, wait a minute, are they better than us? Are they coming in? Right? Number one, you don't need to write on an article, and God loves the Ger. Chas v'shalom, he doesn't love us too. Right? It's not necessary. The Gerim understand who and what they are. We should be secure in our position. Saw it written. Where did I see it written? I forget where I saw it written. So there was saying that. Where was it? I forget where. That we Jews should not lose. Man, it's driving me nuts where this is. We should not lose comfort of our position as Jews. So when the Gerim are taking on the mitzvot, we do not suffer because of that. If I remember during this year, I'll mention where it is. I'm just looking around. Forget exactly where I saw it. But, I know where. Rav Herzog. Right? Rav Herzog in saying that there's a Ger Toshav in the Medina today. When they come close taking Ger Toshav status, we should not fear that we lose our distinction as Jews, like the nations, yada yada. Okay. Therefore, the book is written for the non-Jew to understand. We have a fence for Torah, right? We have all the diukim and these things. They don't. They don't understand the fence. They don't have a fence. The fence is for us and relating to them and other issues. So when writing a book for non-Jews, there's no need to give them the fence as per their writing and their Torah ideas. I.e., you can speak the language that's not necessarily Jewish. Right? It doesn't mean we're talking about non-Jewish things. Right? It's on topic, it's Ger Toshav, it's Torah, footnotes, sources. It just doesn't have the same tam as a regular classic Jewish sefer. If you were to open Mesilas Yesharim, right? Very Jewish lashon. If you open the world of the Ger, it's written for the non-Jew. So if you are a Jew looking to find out what is a Ger, and you want to get Ger, I recommend reading the world of the Ger, but keep in mind, this is for a entry-level non-Jew, Noahide, who left the church, who wants to do the 7 laws, and find out biblically what the Ger Toshav or Noahide was or is. Is that clear? Shabbos. You're going to hear things like, the world of the Ger says XYZ about Shabbos. Now, I'm going to tell you what we say, and then I'm going to tell you what you hear. We say in the world of the Ger that a Ger, I call him a biblical Noahide. We'll get into what exactly he is. Let's just call him the non-Jew then. He keeps a non-Jewish Shabbat. Did you hear what I said? Can you repeat what I said? A non-Jew keeps a non-Jewish Shabbat. Can you repeat that?
A non-Jew keeps a non-Jewish Shabbat?
Yes. And for some reason, everybody else outside of the present company repeats it to me. He keeps a Jewish Shabbat, or he keeps a full Jewish Shabbat. We never said that. That is not said anywhere. Yet you'll find, if you're a rabbi out there, or whoever you are, you have a non-Jewish student, you're going to have it come back to you. Is it true that we can keep Shabbat? And then it's going to come back a couple times. Who said they can keep a Jewish Shabbat? Who said they can keep Shabbat fully or fully Jewish or whatever nusach you have? We never said that. The book doesn't say that. It is called Ger Toshav Shabbat according to Croesus 9a. Rabbeinu Gershom, and his Perush on the Croesus 9a here, he calls the Ger Toshav Shabbat allowable because they are, what does he call it? Ksat Gerus, he calls it. Ksat Gerus. You can find the Rabbeinu Gershom commentary, meaning every Ger Toshav, Be'ikar Hadin, is a Ksat Gerus. Alright, so we know the full Gerus is day one, he's a non-Jew, and he's going to say, I accept Taryag mitzvahs, let's go and start doing this. He's going to keep a Shabbos, but they tell him like pull a hair out, whatever it is they don't want to do a malacha, right? And he's going to be called a Ger Tzedek until based and afterwards, when really he's Jewish, he will usually keep the Ger Tzedek label for whatever reason. What we're saying here is that there's a Ger Toshav vis-a-vis this exact prat, and he's only interested in his 7. I mean, he's not interested in Taryag or whatever majority of mitzvahs it is. He is interested in 7. So that in English you'd call him Noahide, right? But if he satisfies Ger Toshav, as we will explain how that's done, hold on, not yet. But if he is satisfied, the Shabbos he keeps, again, it is not Jewish, it is not full. It is explained in Croesus 9a. He can break Shabbos one of 3 ways. He can either keep it like Yontif, right? Do you cook on Yontif?
Yeah.
Okay, so that would be a breaking Shabbos if it were Shabbos, correct?
Yeah.
He does his Shabbos like that, meaning he cooks on Shabbos. Or he does it like Chol Moed, right? Do you diminish your work on Chol Moed?
A bit, yeah.
So does he on Shabbos. Or he can say Shabbat Shalom. Do you say Shabbos on Shabbos?
Yeah.
So does he. So there's 3 ways that he can keep Shabbos. He can say Shabbos. He can do it like Chol Moed. He doesn't go to the office on Saturday. Or he can transfer a flame and cook. And the Lashon is by Ksat Gerus. If there's a loss, he can break Shabbos to compensate the loss. Right? If there's a fire breaking out that's not so serious, he can put it out, things like this. Now, is that a Jewish Shabbos? So you're saying he doesn't keep a Jewish Shabbos?
Right.
Shkoyach. Pay attention to the Lashon, right? If we're saying he is a non-Jew, he is not a Ger Toshav according to the Yovel, right? Pay attention. The transmission of this is even more important than the thing itself. No one is saying, repeat, no one is saying that we are instituting Ger Toshav before Yovel. If you were to ask me, is there a Ger Toshav today? I would say, is there Yovel today? And you would say? And I would say, then there is no Ger Toshav today. Okay. But there is a Ger Toshav today, but it's outside the Inyan of Yovel. It's a different Inyan totally. Right? And we will explain what that difference is. So pay attention to the transmission of Lashon. If someone says Ger Toshav Shabbos, do not repeat it as just Shabbos or Jewish Shabbos or full Shabbos. Pay attention to the Lashon. The Lashon is everything in the Sugya. It really is. The book, The World of the Ger. You need to know something. All right? The World of the Ger, even though it's written in kind of a non-Jewish tone or tempo, what other word can you say? Tone, tempo, I forget the other word. But anyways, it doesn't feel Jewish. Right? The style of communication, Jewish Svarim, as you well know, has a certain feel to it, right? When you read the Chafetz Chaim, you're reading a Jewish Sefer, right? When you read the Rambam's Mor Nevuchim, you're getting a Jewish Sefer. When you read Shas, when you read Rav Hutner, when you read the Maral, when you read the Gra, when you read Shari Ora, when you read Mam Loez, when you read the Ari, when you read the Chidah, when you read the Chumash, all these different things, you're getting a Jewish vibe. The World of the Ger is not for Jews, right? If you're Jewish, guess what? You're not a Ger Toshav. It doesn't need to be said. Therefore, we're not talking to you. These are people that don't know Jewish. They never had gefilte fish, and they probably never had cholent. So they need to be spoken to in a vernacular and context they can understand. With that said, it is not a dumb sefer. A dumb sefer I'm going to call Harry Potter. Right? I'm guessing it doesn't take too much makshava to figure out what the zach is over there. If you read, let's pick one off the shelf here. Who can we get here? If you read the Maral, okay, you're going to pick up the Maral. Are you going to think?
Yes.
Okay. Can you understand it if you don't think?
No.
Okay, but does that mean that you're dumb or stupid either way? Or smart or dumb, whatever, does it matter? No, it's a mindset, right? You pick up the Maral, you understand, okay, Maral, get the thinking cap on, we got to think a little bit to get shot, correct?
Yeah.
World of the Gear is no different. If you pick it up thinking it's Harry Potter because it's a non-Jewish book, you will not get it. Does that make it a hard read? No. What it means is the diukim, the svaras, the pshat of it is subtle, right? You need to think. When it says non-Jewish Shabbat or Ger Toshav Shabbat, not like a Jew, right? If you're not paying attention, it will go right over your head like every other Jewish sefer, right? I mean, this you see if in the Gemara, if you're not paying attention, you can read 20 blot and you won't understand a word. It goes right over your head. But if you stop and think and say, "Hey, what was that? What did that mean?" You'll get the whole thing. Please slow down. Read it even 2 times. Pay attention. The lumdus inside is that essential and deep, right? I know a lot of people write Sfarim and it's like, me, I'm me. This is not that, right? This is straight from the sources. It is not made up stuff. It's not opinion. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Right? And you really need to digest it. Our kavana and tafkid was basically to take this book for all intents and purposes and the peripheral sources, right? And there's a lot of them, and really crunch it down. Make it spoken in a vernacular of universal ability to understand it, but we did not dumb down the Torah element of it. Right? So when we talk about Naman and Shabbos and Yisro, I mean, the Yisro chapter is predicated on did he convert or not? And just to let you know, no one says he converted. Right? In the English, everyone takes proselyte or nisgayer as converted. It isn't. The Sugya in the Midrash and in the Yerushalmi, every time they bring it up, the question is one and only one. Did Yisro bring a shlamim or an ola? If he brought an ola predicated on when he came to Sinai before or after the Seres Adibris, right? If he came in one condition, he's a ben Noach and he brought an ola. If he brought a shlamim, everybody says a Jew can only bring a shlamim, and therefore he converted. And no! What they're saying is that in the end of days, if you read Rashi there is a prophecy that the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom, that the Ola was always kept in the north of Israel, and then it goes south towards the base of Mikdash, where the Jews always did shlamim. The question, but the idea is, in the future, when all the exiles and Gerim and everybody returns, there's a thought that they will do shlamim in the base of Mikdash after Mashiach comes. Right? There's no temple today, if you didn't notice. So if they're going to bring shlamim, there has to be a temple. If there's a temple, there's a Mashiach. If there's a Mashiach, there's a Geula, and things changed. The idea is the Gerim will bring shlamim in the end of days. But the Gemara is asking the question, right? Did Yisro do it? If he did do it, they're saying he brought it early. Just like being a Ger Toshav. You can be a Ger Toshav today because it's like you're doing it early. You don't have a chiyuv to be a Ger Toshav until Mashiach comes. Lefi the Nevuas. If today you want to be it, then you can be a Ger Toshav early. Can you bring a shlamim today? Well, there's no temple. So it doesn't matter. With Yisro, he had the ability to bring a shlamim in a very unique time in history. Read the sugya inside. And with that, we're going to end the notes. But on that, I want to transition. We're going to read Rav Hutner. Rav Hutner was the Rosh Yeshiva of Chaim Berlin. Rav Aaron Lichtenstein, who just died, was a Rav Hutner Talmud, and I believe one of your all-time favorite Mashpiyas is also a Rav Hutner disciple. Victor Miller. Claim. Okay, this is a svara. It is not as strong as a brisker halachically, but after reading the whole sugya, I think everybody will agree this is a wonderful svara. Amnam kol hadvarim halalu amorim rak b'dogei lebris zayim mitzvahs kefi shehaya kayim ad bris hataryag. U'um zoyis b'shas bris hataryag nizchadesh inyan she'efshar lo lebenoyach l'tzaref es bris or sheva lebris hataryag benoyach kizeh nikra gir taishav. In Yana Nizvayr, okay. However, all these things we say only are nogeya to the bris of the Zion mitzvahs that the Kayim, he does them until the bris of Taryag. Meaning the world was Noah, by the way, this is for you. Noah, the Keshet, the Os bris are all one thing. You ask me, why does the Keshet mentioned 6 times? 6 laws given to Noah, 6 were given to Adam, 1 was given to Noah. The rainbow existed in Bereshis. When Noah came out of the Teva after the Mabul, he had merit, right? So God gave him, the Keshet was now in his name, and that became a bris, and that became a Torah of a bris. So the 7 laws are the bris. The Keshet is a sign of the Brit, which is the 7 laws of Noah. That is Rav Hutner. That should answer your question about that. So those 7 laws and that bris of Noah, which is not the same as the bris of Abraham, says Rav Hutner, that existed until Sinai Taryag. Pay attention to that. We're going to talk about it in our Avodah Brura. Now, if you are a Stam ben Noach, i.e. Akum, you have your 7 laws, but you can elevate out of Stam, and you can letzarif is bris hasheva lebris hataryag. Are the 7 laws of Noah inside our Taryag mitzvahs? Yes. Moshe commanded us to force the world into 7 laws when we have sovereignty on our soil. Thus, we have a shaykhis to the 7 laws. You, as a non-Jew, can do the 7 laws according to Adam Arishon, or you can elevate to the Sinai covenant of the 7 laws. Does that make you Jewish? No. The Panovich Rosh Hashiva is going to say, you are obligated that once Sinai happened and you're not Jewish, you are on the clock to punch in and testify and receive lekabel, the 7 laws, lefi din Yisrael. Okay, it's like you have a notice, right? 30 days to pay your rent, right? You have until Mashiach comes to check in at Sinai and testify, I believe in the 7 laws of Sinai as through Moshe Rabbeinu. You are now no longer a Stam Goy, or Stam ben Noach. You have elevated Kat din Yisrael, like the din of Yisrael, lefi only the 7 laws. You are now no longer called a ben Noach, but Kazeh Nikra Ger Toshav. That's what a Ger Toshav is. We will explain that more inside the halacha. But Rav Hutner is bringing it here, lefi Sfar. That's the skeleton. Let's give it a more kind of simchadik feel. I'm going to read this in Hebrew. Tell me if you can keep up with the Hebrew. Yeah? Ubedas Rashi. Near the Lashita so Azil Yivamas 48. 48 is our major sugya about the 10 Commandments. Is it a Ger Tzedek, Ger Toshav? We know that it's a non-Jew in the 10 Commandments, the Ger. Rashi there is going to say that he is the Keep Shabbos, because the commandment, Shabbos, Ger. He's keeping Shabbos because if he were to violate Shabbos, then he would be like an Akum. Because only an Akum violates Shabbos. So explain. Vayinafash ben Amasecha. This is according to the other source in Parshas Mishpatim. There's 2 sources of the Ger shall rest. One is in Yisro, one's in Mishpatim. They say in the Ramban and Rashi oscillate. One says Ger Toshav, one says Ger Tzedek. Okay? So in our 10 Commandments, most people say Ger Tzedek, and they are referring to the Ger Tzedek non-Jew. The Ramban says that's hard to say because it's ger b'sharecha. Therefore, he calls them the ger toshav. Thus, in mishpatim, rest your vaynafash and the ger. Everybody else says that's the ger toshav, so it fits even better. And Rashi there again says ger toshav. But before it's Rashi, ger toshav. There you go. Shekabel elav shelo lavod avodah zora v'ochel nevelis. Right? V'chayavu aksuv al hashabbos. Right? And the pasuk is gonna obligate him in Shabbos. Why? The machalu Shabbos ka'ovid akum. Right? If he now is in Shabbos as a ger toshav and he breaks Shabbos, then he's like an akum. That's haguf akasha. Tosfos says no way. You can't do more than 7 laws. And if you keep Shabbos and you're a non-Jew, you're chayav misa. Right? Okay. Wrong. Barur l'shitas Rashi. Kedas hanach revusa desvira luhu is the ger toishav einu stam ben noach shemekayim sheva mitzvahs. Ela the ger toshav hu halacha mechudeshis the efshar lo la ben noach sheyizgayer le'inyin sheyizchayev hanach sheva mitzvahs k'Yisrael. The difference is, yesterday he was doing 7 laws like a Stam ben Noach. Today he's doing the 7 laws as an Israelite would hope to see him doing, right? So there's like the Jewish way of viewing the 7 laws, and there's the non-Jewish way. One is Chayav Misa on Shabbos. The other one keeps Shabbos as if to say he is not serving idols. Is that a Jewish Shabbos? No. He's not keeping it lefi the bris of Israel on Shabbos. He's keeping it lefi not serving idols. And therefore it says, "Umekevan sheb Yisrael halacha ruvechis he." Israelite halachas are broad. No stam Noahide halacha is very small. You kill a Noahide over pruta. In Israel, in Mishpatim, we have statutes and Batei Dinim which the Torah gives him privilege to. Remember the waters of Mara. We gave Dinim to the Noahites. The Bechal Shabbos Havi Ka'ovid Akum. Shuv Hager Toisha B'schai V'Shabbos Mitzad Yisura Devodah Zora Shekabla Al Atzmo Ki Yisrael. Right? Ka Yisrael. He is accepting like the Sinai of Israel and not like the pre-Sinai of Adam and Noah. Agreed? Chiddush zed the ger toishav mischayev b'Shabbos mitzad isura devodah zora yalfinan be'emes mikra devina fash ben amasekev hager l'shita so shel Rashi. Right? That's in Rav Hutner, Pesach, Pachad Yitzchak, Maimer, Kaf Zion for those following along. Good? Alright, now we're going to get into the heavy duty stuff. And if I forget, remind me in the end to close with the brisker, okay? Voda Brura 64b. This is our famous Ritva. Right? I'm going to try to keep it mostly in the original language, okay? Ger Toshav Mahu. Kedei Le'avin. Sugia Sugamora Nikdim Divrei Ritva Mesektan Makos Tes Amud Aleph. Vizel Lishono. I'm going to speak slow and clear for you, yeah? Gimel Lishonos Namru Bagoyim. Got it? Ger Toshav Benoyach Goy. Ger Toshav Hu Shekibel Bebeistin Shal Yisrael Lekayim Sheva Mitzvahs Shenitztavu B'nei Noyach. The Kevon Shekablen Bebeistin Hu Nikra B'Sheva Mitzvahs Elu Mitzvah V'Oisei. The Ki Ha'anu Mitzvoyin L'Chiyuso. But you'll say today there is no Mitzvah L'Chiyuso because there's no Beistin, because there's no Yovel. Therefore, that level of Ger Toshav is not applicable. Uben Noyachu Shalo Kiblan Bebeistin Ela Dekayim Alon the Mekayim Oisu Ma'atzmo. He was Mekayim Be'atzmo. He stood there, and the brisker's going to say this, everyone's going to say this. He stood and said, God, I have received on myself the 7 laws. That's called Kabbalah. Kabbalah. We're not talking about the Arizal, we're talking Kablaso, right? When the first case, Ger Toshav, based in Yovel, that's not called Kabbalah. That's not called Kablaso. That's called Mekablin. And they are not the same word. Mekablin comes from the Talmud. I forget if it's Erech 29 or Bechor's 30. Look him up. I forget which one. And what it is we say, if you have Damai in your house, and you have a Puerto Rican helper, right? He's not Jewish. And you say, Jose, can you please put the Damai in the corner, please? Okay? Can you trust him to do that? Yes. Do you know why? Because that's all he knows to do. You told him, Jose, Damai goes in the corner. That's called Kul Torah Kula as far as Jose is concerned. It's called Kul, the Gemara. Kul Torah Kula. He doesn't know anything else. He doesn't know about Heter Mechira. He doesn't know beyond this. He knows Damai. If he messes up the Damai, he puts it somewhere not kosher. Did he Mekayim Kul Torah Kula? No. So therefore, you reject the entire thing. He's treif. You don't appreciate a thing he did. If he accepts everything glot kosher, that's called mekablin. You and he are on the same page of Kul Torah Kula. Jose, Damai goes in the corner. That's mekablin. You know that when you go to work, he's going to do that, and he's not going to mess it up. Once he messes it up, you found the Damai over here. You're not mekablin. You're not on the same page. He was not Kula Torah Kula. He is chesed in the whole entire Torah as far as he's concerned. Your relationship is off. Ger Toshav. When it's Mekablin and the based in the whole thing, right? The Ger Toshav has to know what he knows. So he sounds kosher. He's saying, yes, 7 laws. I rejected Avodah Zarah. Is he Mekablin? You on the same page? Okay. So that's Kul Torah Kula. But then he says, yeah, and I got this funny thing about, Jesus is the Messiah. Are you Mekablin now? No, you lost it because the one weird thing came in and blew up the whole thing, right? He was chashed in one, therefore you lost the whole thing. You had Kul Torah Kula, but when he was even one thing was messed up, you blew it. No longer Mekablin, but again, that's not exactly an Ogeya because we don't have Yovel, we don't have the requirement to be on the same page as this guy. Okay? So on that level, we're not there. But if he's makabel on himself, I am 7 laws. No. Now, can he makabel on himself if he is a Yeshka guy? No. So if he attempts to do that, it's like putting a peanut butter and jelly sandwich into a disk drive. He didn't do anything. Right? And now what your relationship was with him is based on you. You have no mitzvah to recognize him. Now if he's coming around, why are you letting him around? The guy's a Christian. Right? Now that's on you. Now if you don't want to let anybody in, that's also on you. You don't have to let anybody in. But you're also not being a mensch if he truly is a Ger Toshav. So if he really is a Ger Toshav, he is kablaso, kosher, right? He rejected Avodah Zarah. You know him. You can vouch for him. It's up to you if you want to not taunt the ger, love the ger, all these mitzvahs you can be doing. But just know, if he is a true ger and you're treating him poorly, that's a problem. But also it's dangerous because if he's not a true ger and you think he is, well, then you need to know your stuff a little bit better, and it's a problem, right? Life is not easy, right? There are people that have issues. I mean, this is in every Beit Knesset in the world, right? Look, in Sfat, we see a lot of people coming in to different situations, and sometimes it's not always pleasant. So there's no free ride. You have to know who's coming in. They have to know who you are. You have to know who they are. Whenever there's an embracing, it's not so easy to reject the world, and it's not so easy to accept the world, right? There's a bit of friction, a bit of roges. Be mature in the libud. Now that's Ben Noach. And then you have Goy. And to finish up the Ben Noach. By the way, the Rogash Overgon says today when there is no opportunity for Beis Din, they are allowed to have Ger Toshav privileges in the Geder of Ben Noach, right? Again, like it's mashma here, because you are not penalizing them because of our fadicha of not having based in. Therefore, when there's no opportunity based in, they come down to Darga, but their grandfather Ger Toshav into Ben Noach, which is not Stam Ben Noach, i.e. Goy, i.e. Akum. El Lekayim Lunch Lekayim Oisem Atzmo. Kamisha Einam Mitzvah Oisei. V'kiha Ein Anu Mitzvah Lechayusov V'gam Ein Anu Loharid B'yad V'dayim V'lo Ligrom Bo Shum Katala Kiva Desosov Oisei Osam Sha'af Eino Mitzvah Oisei Yeshlo Ksak Skar. Stam Goy Hu She'eno Zehir Lekayim Shem Mitzvahs V'kiha Mutter Larido Labor L'Makom Leka Eva O Legrom Lo Hariga. Right, the Vodazara 26 and 20, the Darga of Akum is he's not coming up from the pit. There's no Indian to bring him up from the pit or not, to not throw him back to the pit. He is, as we said here, he's already in the pit. There's no issue with this guy. He's not a Ben Olam Haba. With somebody out of the pit, you're not able to throw them back into the pit. A righteous Chassid Omas Olam or Tzaddikim Gemorim and Omas Olam, they are not they have nothing left to do with the pit, and therefore that's the question we're dealing with. Those that have removed themselves from the pit. You understand what pit means? Just Avodah Zarah and Nachri, right? They've removed from that world. That's what the sugi is about. What to do with people who have left behind the Akum lifestyle completely. Therefore, it is not Nogea at all. It is not Nogea to treat them as if they're in the pit as a Stam Goy in any way, shape, and form. They have removed that label. And there are people out there that have. How you holding up?
Hi.
Stark? Rambam, Ger Toishev, Ksav Rambam, Perag Yodalim, Yelgasuri Bia, Halacha, Zion. Right? This is our famous 14.7 Suri Bia. Zelashon Alama Nikrish Shemo Toishev Lafi Shemutter Lana Loshiva Beneno Be'eretz Yisrael Akalashono. Right, that's the famous sugi of the Rambam. Everyone's going to quote that. The very next halach of the Rambam, but in the Ger Toshav Ein Bezmash in Yovel Noeg. People think it's a stira. It isn't. And the Avodah Bura is going to explain. V'yesh Leber Gedero Shel Ger Toshav V'shnei Ofnayim. Number one. So what is it? According to the Rambam, 14.7 is Suri Bia. Remember, look it up. Get inside. What's the first darga? Ben Noach Gamorhu. Rak Legabe Dinim Mesoyim Dino Shavel Yisrael Mashum Dehu Mechasidi Omos Olam Kasiv the Rambam Mehilchas Suri Bia Halacha Zion Upereches Mehilchas Malachim Halacha Yud Aleph. Notice that. He's saying that Malachim 8:11 is synonymous Ger Toshav Chasidi Omos Olam, because the Rambam, the halacha before chapter 8 Malachim, halacha 10, he's going to say Ger Toshav, and in halacha 11 Chasidi Omos Olam. They are learning in Pirkei Shonim, I believe incorrect. They're trying to say that the first halacha is Dafka Ger Toshav in the land of Israel. The second one is Chasidi Omos Olam, Dafka not in the land of Israel. And the nafkamina is Olam Haba in the second Shita, or in the first one would be privileges of Ger Toshav. They say it's two different scenarios. Here they're trying to say that is not the pshat at all. They're trying to say, and you would say that it is a stira, but in fact it isn't. That the Chasidi Omos Olam and Ger Toshav are the same thing. The only difference is, and we're going to explain, that the first one, Hilchos Malachim, the Rambam, Perek Ches Halacha Yud, Ger Toshav, according to accepting Din Yisrael at Sinai, Lefi Torah Moshe Rabbeinu, and not Lefi the Masorah before Sinai. And the second one, the Chasidi Omos Olam, is going to be to get Olam Haba, you have to accept the 7 laws according to Moshe Rabbeinu at Sinai, not according to your own Chachma. Two different Moshe Rabbeinus. One, Moshe and not you. The other one is Moshe and not Adam. Got it? That resolves the contradiction in the Rambam in Hilchos Malachim, chapter 8, halachas 10 and 11, and is a direct correlation of Suri Bia, chapter 14, halachas Zion, that calls the Ger Toshav, Chassid Omos Olam, one thing. Two things were one. And the very next halacha, 8, chapter 14, halacha 8, is Suri Bia, Ein Zman Yovel Yovel Lo Noeg, right? Different Inyan. Different Inyan. The Riva there is going to explain that the Yovel is only saying there's a certain level of Ger Toshav not applicable as long as the Yovel is not standing. We will get to it. Just understand there's two types of Ger Toshav. One that is like the Chassidic Amos Olam, how you accepted Sinai, Moshe Rabbeinu, right? The other one is you're coming to live in Israel, right? Moshe Rabbeinu's been nifter a long time now. This has nothing to do with Moshe Rabbeinu. This has to do with your neighbors in Sfat, whether or not you can live here, right? And to accept it as a Ger Toshav. It's a different Inyan. And obviously today we don't have that. And again, don't put words in my mouth, please. Today we don't have Yovel. There's no Ger Toshav like that. The second opinion to resolve the stira. All right, first is he's a Ben Noach Gamoru. He's not Jewish. He's a Ger Toshav, not Jewish, right? Yoitzi Michlal Ben Noach. Wait a minute. He just said he's leaving the Klal of Ben Noach. Afal Gav, the Michlal Yisrael, Dayan Loba. But he's not Jewish. He's not Noach. He's not Jewish. V'dam yele evid, delula giloi krad v'choya mitzvahs keisha. Haya pater mekol v'kol the Dayan Lo Niktas Michlal Yisrael. Afal Gav. The Kavar Yarsim Mechlal Ben Noach V'chein Moyer Loshin Rabbeinu Gershom. Right? The shot is he has lost his Ben Noach status. He is not Jewish, but he is not Ben Noach either. And the Rabbeinu Gershom, as we mentioned, the Ger Toshav, really at the bottom lowest common denominator, right? Even though he might not know it, he is called Miksat Gerus. Just because he left the church, left the Avodah Zarah, left the Nachri world, and you got him involved in 7 laws, he's even chanting, do your 7, go to heaven, he is a Ksat Gerus. He doesn't know where he's going yet. He doesn't know enough to know where he's going yet. Once he tries the Kigel and the Cholent, he might know better where he's going. Right now, it's Ksat Gerus. He's interested in the 7 laws. He is not interested in the Jewish laws, per se. Therefore, if he was interested in Jewish laws to receive them all at once, that's called a convert Ger Tzedek. If he was interested in a lot of Jewish law, after 25 years of Noahide, you can call him a Ger Tzedek non-Jew. But if he's strictly into being very not Jewish, keeping his 7, right, he is not a Ger Tzedek, therefore Ger Toshav, only because he is not qualified in Ger Tzedek. You understand that? It's like there's only Ger Tzedek. There's only Ger Tzedek. But if you're not even really Ger Tzedek, you're so into not being Jewish, you're just into the bare minimum. So the lowest common denominator of Ger Tzedek in this regard is called Ger Toshav. Right? Because calling him a Ger Tzedek is a little bit misleading. So here Ger Toshav is better than Ger Tzedek. The Rabbanan are using the words to describe the matzav of who he is. If we call him a Ger Tzedek and he's only interested in the 7, it's misleading. You'll say, hey, come join the minyan. But if we call him Ger Toshav, it's like, hey, okay, what is this? What's going on? The other reason why it's confusing with the Ger Toshav is because we're so used to the whole Yovel thing. Okay, now, how you holding up?
No.
Another vort that says that the Ger Toshav, Yaitse Michlal Ha'amim, he's no longer of the nations. You've yanked him out of the nations. Okay? Then it's going to talk about, this is good, this is interesting. Ve'ein lahachshos, dahari ger, shamal velo tavu, tvila, mikveh. V'delo nichnes bechlal Yisrael, yaitze mechlal ben noyach rak al yedei mila. Va'im kain eich yaitze ger toisha bechlal ben noyach bli mila. How do you leave Ben Noach then without Mila? If a convert leaves the nations with Mila, what about a non-Jew leaving Noahide without Mila? The Yesh Lamar the Dafka Ger Shadayan lo kibel alav mitzvahs ad hatvila lachein lo yaitzim mechlal Ben Noach bli Mila aval Ger Toishev shekibel alav sheva mitzvahs b'nei Noach. Yeah. L'chein yaitsim mechlal ben Noach gam bli mila. So a Ger Toshav leaves Bnei Noach behind, also without mila. You don't have to circumcise him. to stop being a stam benoch. Now this is great. Watch this. Bezemi Yushev Stiris Harambam Shiksav. And this is going on Malachim, again, Hilchos Malachim, chapter 8, halach 11. The Ger Toishev, Hu Machasidi Omos Ha'olam. So there's halachas 10 and 11, and Pirkei Shoshanim Dallas are going to say it's two different halachas. It isn't. Alright, because you say it's the Ger Toishev Hu Machasidi Omos Ha'olam, V'yesh lo chelek l'olam haba. V'ilu b'hilchos Asari biyagam. Alright? Ksav d'olam halaba, Eino elo Yisrael v'lo l'goyim. How do you resolve that contradiction? Only Jews get olam haba and not goyim. Here you're saying Ger Toshav Chasidim Olam get olam haba. Lafi hanal yesh lomar the kivar sheger Toshav yartzim echlal ben noyach shapir yesh lo chelek olam haba. Since he left behind ben noyach, he gets olam haba. He's a Ger Toshav. Moshe Ksav Rambam Hilchos Yisuri Bia to olam haba eno elo Yisrael haina lafuki ben noyach v'lo Ger Toshav. Hilchos Malachim, chapter 8, halachas 10 and 11. They are not two different scenarios, i.e. one on the land of Israel, one worldwide. They're one Zach. Right? He is a Ger Toshav, Chasidim Olam, to the exclusion of Ben Noach. Therefore, in the Reisha, halacha Yud, we're making an equation. A Ger Toshav is someone who has accepted the 7 laws of Noah. In the Seifa, the next halacha, he is a Ger Toshav, Chasidim Olam. The diuk is, and he is not a Goy ben Noach. Lafi the Chiddush that he now gets Olam Haba. Pretty chazak, huh? Ve'hinei Even Ezra Parshas HaKahal Mefarish HaDeksiv HaKahal is Ha'am Ha'anashim V'nashim V'taf V'gircha Asher B'sharecha D'kavana L'Ger Toshav V'zel L'shoyna Ulai Yis Yahed. Here we have in our famous Parshas HaKahal Devarim 31:12. The ger that's in your gate, guess why? Well, guess why he's coming to the Beis Hamikdash? That's right, the non-Jew is coming to your Beis Hamikdash, and he's going to stand right next to the women there. And guess why? The Even Ezra is going to say maybe he will yit yahed. What does it mean to yit yahed? Judify. And if we're not talking about the religion, we're talking about getting into the 7 laws, getting into Din Yisrael. Ubechidushi etzlach nitfas kushi minechad etzlach the cave on the Ger Toishav goy gamarhu a chutter lo lechnes Izras nashim shesham haya kriyas hakahal. How is it possible that a non-Jew in goyim nechnasim sham into the Izras nashim to the Beis Hamikdash? It's good grace akashi, isn't it? Aval im amrin on the Ger Toishav yartzim echlal ben noyach. V'lobo l'klal Yisrael yesh lamar derak ben noyach asur l'chnes Ezras anashim aval Ger Toishav mutar afal bisha yin b'klal Yisrael. A Ger Toishav can enter Ezras nashim in the Beis Hamikdash, but not as tam ben noyach. Hold on, there's a bit of downtime here. You like this? Pretty good, huh? How are we doing out in video land? Let's see here. 1 second. Alright, I'll pick up with our friends over here. 1 second. Okay. Ezu Ger Toshav. The things I'm skipping over are like, conquering people in war. That's not where we're at right now. Masai ben Noach nasa Ger Toshav sheyeh Yisrael mitzvoyin l'chiyus. So when is there a ben Noach made Ger Toshav? This is like the universal thing. Like when is Bnei Noach made Ger Toshav? When Israel has mitzvoyin l'chiyuso leparnaso, which is not now, not until Yovel. All right, that is. Let's see, that one. All right, now here we go. Now we're going to get Chazak again. The Vilna Goin, Shavi the Rambam, Hach Braisa Mayri Gali Inyan Ezu Ger Toshav, She'eno Oyser Yayin B'Mago Ela B'Shtia. V'lo b'hanak yishar oivid koichavim ulam harash b'achoylik al zeh dekol machlaikis bein Rabbi Meir l'Rabbanan hu rak la'inyin l'chiyuso. The Vilna Gaon saying, the three opinions of Ger Toshav in Avodah Zorah 64b. He is one who rejects Avodah Zorah in front of three Chaverim. Or the second opinion, 7 laws of Noah. Or the third opinion, all the mitzvahs of the Torah, except for eating the Vela. The difference of opinion is there an inyan of mitzvah l'chiyuso? Now, Kol shekiba alav bifnei gimel chaverim shelo lavod avodas koichavim divrei Rebbe Meir. So there's your first opinion, and the Chachamim then are the second opinion, which is halach l'maisa. Ger Toshav is someone who keeps the 7 laws of Noah. Hakasha Seder Yaakov Dahari Ger Toshav Zeh Mutter Lo L'Sheves BeEretz Yisrael. The Im Ken Kiva Shalafi Rebbe Meir Lo Kibel Alav Kul Zayin Mitzvahs B'nei Noach Rak Shelo Lavod Avodah Zorah Nimsahu Rotzea Goizel Megala Rayas Eich Mutter Rasha Kezel Yeshuv BeEretz Yisrael Lo Yeshuv BeEretzecha Pen Yichtu Oischa Li. How do you let the Rasha live in the land of Israel? V'teres devarnai shoymer hu gam shar thav mitzvahs rak sheyesh shnei devarim shmiras ha-mitzvahs lechud v'kabbalah lechud. This is a tremendous chiluk in din. We talk about Kabbalah, right? Is Kabbalah the same as Shmira? No. You are allowed to keep the 7 laws. You can keep not serving idols. The Beis Din, which is not even a proper Beis Din, therefore you don't need Yovel. That's why it's called 3 Chaverim is the Lashon. 3 Chaverim is for Kabbalah and not Shmira. So you can be Shomer in terms of what you keep, in terms of Chinuch. When it's official, 3 Chaverim, if you go that route, not everyone's going to hold of the 3 Chaverim for Kabbalah. The Brisker will not hold of a necessitation of 3 Chaverim. But should you have 3 Chaverim, that's for Kabbalah, not Shmira. Shmira is on you. Kabbalah would be a proper accepting, like the Brisker, and the even more proper, obviously more Machmir, is going to be in front of 3 Chaverim. But, yeah, got it. L'braisa Ari b'mash tzorich l'kabel alav if they based in shel shleisha. Right. Second. Shouldn't miss this. I always miss this one thing. What have I been doing here? Okay. Shalol avod avodas kochvim. Arech im kroim yesh lehem din ger toshav lefi shitas Rabbi Meir kevan de'inam ovid avodah zarah. Okay. Okay, so the Kesef Mishnah is going to say in Hilchos Melachim Halach Yud, Psak Rabbeinu Kochachamim, 7 laws of Noah, Mashmel Lei the Adkan Lo Pligi Rabbanin Rabbi Meir. Right, the 2 first opinions in Avodah Zorah 64b. Ella I boy shikabel lav sheva mitzvahs. Right, is it enough in 64b Ezehu Ger Toshav to accept the 7 mitzvahs? That's it, or is it enough b'shalol avodah Zorah? Right? Aval kuli al matzurik shikabel b'fnei shlosh chaverim. Nafkamina. 3 chaverim is your based in front of 3 chaverim. Do you say I don't serve idols, or do you have to say I don't serve idols and the other 6 mitzvahs? Is 1 enough, and I believe you on the 6, or do you have to do all 7? In terms of the Kabbalah, Shmira, obviously you have to do all 7. Obviously, Pshita. Let me say it. Kol shekiba lav sheva mitzvahs ksav harambam periches v'hilchos malachim halacha yud aleph zelo shoyne kol makabel sheva mitzvahs nizer lasoten hari zeh mechasidi omos ha'olam v'yesh lo chelek l'olam haba. Right? 7 mitzvahs chasidi omos ha'olam olam haba v'hu shekiba oisim asim ifnei shetziva behen ogosh baruch b'torah v'odianu al yedei Moshe Rabbeinu shebnei noeg muktam yitztavu behen. Aval im asam mibnei hikra das, ein zeg ger toishav, ein chassid yamos ha'olam, el mechachmehen. You have to do it according to Torah and Moshe Rabbeinu, or you're not anything. If you do it according to Moshe Rabbeinu, you are a ger toshav, you are a chassid yamos ha'olam, you are a ben olam haba, and it is preferable to do it in front of 3 chaverim. It's a question of what in front of 3 chaverim, and bigger din, you don't have to do it in front of 3 chaverim. And here we go. This is what I was looking for. Ksavi Yiram the Bakul Gavna. This is major right here. Right? This is Hayirim Simon Reish Shlam and Gimel Oz Beis. Ksav Das Hayirim the Bakul Gavna. In every case, with this, every case, Shekibel Alav Zayin Mitzvahs, wherever you accept on yourself 7 laws of Noah, Havi Ger Toshav, you are a Ger Toshav. That is really the essential daya. You accept 7 laws, you are a ger toshav. Begeder hach kabbalah the ika beger toshav ksab chedushay maran agrees. I'm gonna paraphrase agrees because it's a long paragraph. We actually already did it, right? We're talking about the Rambam, chapter 8, halacha 10, 11. Right? Moshe Rabbeinu, according to not Adam, you have to accept that, right? And that's Kabbalah, Kablaso, you're a Ger Toshav. You're a Ben Olam Haba. You're a Chassid Amos Olam, you're not a Goy. Moshe Rabbeinu Sinai, and not you, you're a Ger Toshav, you're a Chassid Amos Olam, you're a Ben Olam Haba, you're not a Goy. Got it? That's the brisker. The second part of the brisker. The Panovich Sharav. This is also Geshmak. Listen to this. Begeder acher begedaro shel kabbalas ger toshav, de mekabel alav, sheva mitzvahs b'nei noyach. Listen to this. Mishum chiyuv Yisrael, velo mishum chiyuv b'nei noyach. Sound familiar in Rav Hutner? Sound familiar in the brisker? De chiyuv ha-mitzvahs shel Yisrael, Chalok medin chiyuv b'nei noyach, af ba'oisin sheva mitzvah shel b'nei noyach, the chiyuv Yisrael hu medin kabbalas haTorah, shenis chayavo b'ma'amed har Sinai, the ilu din chiyuv b'nei noyach, hu rak mishun sivoy Hashem la'adam harishon, ger toisha mekabel alav l'kayim hasheva mitzvahs b'nei noyach medin Yisrael, v'lo medin ben Noach. You're a ben Noach. And you're in the year 1985. You have to now accept the 7 laws again, right? Your previous Alter Zaidi, who did it in the time of Chanoch, right? Doesn't cut it. Sinai revisited the issue. You now have to do the 7 laws according to Sinai. And you don't get credit for saying, my heart was at Sinai. I think I was standing at Sinai. I really like Sinai, and I believe I was there. You weren't there. We're talking physical, right? The Jewish people have a tradition of being there. My father said he was there because his father said he was there because his father said he was there, and my mother is Jewish, and she said her mother was Jewish, and she said her mother was Jewish, and we believe that, right? We believe it by the halacha. If your mother was Jewish, you were probably at Har Sinai. That is the halacha, right? We all know that. If you don't have that qualification, and you say, but I believe I'm Jewish in my heart, I'm a lost Ephraimite, whatever you say, you're not, right? By halacha, the Sinai tradition was broken. For example, I'm a Kohen. If I'm a Kohen and I don't have a reason to believe that my grandfather duchened, right? Am I a Kohen today? No. I don't become a Kohen because my name is Katz or because I really like to duchen and I like being a Kohen. That's not it. Being a Kohen is in the Masorah, the transmission. Did you receive it from your father and his father? That is what a Kohen is, right? Now, I can say, even though I'm not a Kohen, by that, I feel like I am a Kohen. I'm a Kohen. I feel like I'm a Kohen. That's nice, but you're not, right? If Kohen was the same as Sinai and Ger, I would have to then say, I was not at Sinai, or I'm not a Kohen, and I attest to blah, 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 if it was parallel. So if your Masorah is broken, it's the Masorah, it's not your lave, it's not your head, it's not how you feel. Masorah is broken, You go back to Sinai and you attest to, I swear that Moshe Rabbeinu, received the Torah, 7 laws. I accept it. Not me. It was Moshe. Not Adam. It was Moshe. You are now Ger Toshav. You are in Din Yisrael. You are not a Stam ben Noach. Your halacha is broadened. You're within the dinim, kashur to parshas mishpatim. You're kedin Yisrael in those matters where they are nogeya. Where they are not nogeya, you are not. Thus, he who remains diligent in 7 and Ger Toshav is only kedin Yisrael in those 7, right, where they are concerned. The Bris is going to say there's a difference between a ben Noach and a Ger Toshav. Someone who kills B'shogeg and goes kill the ben Noach, you exile the Ger Toshav is one nafkamina. Where the Ger Toshav would eventually take on more things, then he comes into a broadened halacha as the Torah of Israel on that matter. I want to bring in a note here. This is where we get the Jethro thing, right? Like I said, you're on the clock to check in to Sinai. By Mashiach's coming, you will be called Gerim Grurim. You will be coming back against your will. That's how God's going to make it. We will not accept converts in those days. You will be a Ger Toshav, as prophecy dictates. You're a Ger Grurim. You're coming back. That will happen. Since the times of Pumbedisa, the early yeshiva, the redaction of the Talmud, in Masa Mexia, the end of Bava Kama talks about Masa Mexia. Look to Rashi and the Maram Shif there, and about how the Chachamim wanted the Gerim to convert. They were called Abiri Lev, Rachok Ben Tzedakah. It's a pasuk in Yeshayahu. I think it's a Chavetz Chaim as Perush on somewhere in Brachas, if I'm not mistaken, or Yevamos maybe. Why the Gerim have a hard time? Because the Chachamim wanted them to convert early and convert Dafka. Because in the end, they're going to become Gerim anyways. So why wait 2,000 years? And for that reason, there's an inyan that if you realize that you belong with Israel before the Gerim Grurim of Mashiach, right? You can either convert, because now you can, in the end you won't, like in the days of Solomon and Shlomo. Or if you just want to be a Ger, right? You can be a Ger now. And where do we learn this? Yisro. Yisro was like the first one, right? Just after Sinai, he shows up, right? After Sinai, he says, hey, I'm here. I'm bringing my Ger Toshav status. I'm going to go back and convert my people. The first one to crash the party. See you guys at Mashiach. Right? And so now, if you're around, you're allowed to come in early, right? You don't have to be Gerim Grurim. You can come from love, like Ruth. Ruth is your dugma in this area. That's the Yisro thing. Now, very beginning here. If you notice, the Lashon of the Brisker is Biyachis Yisrael. Once there's no Yovel, or the Yovel is saying, I have a beis din because I have Israel. If I have Israel, if I'm mitzvah l'chiyuso, right? You want to live here, you have to be attached to Israel. I'm a rabbi, I'm in beis din. If you go through my beis din, you're attached to Israel because I'm attached to Israel, yada yada, right? Therefore, the real Ger Toshav is Eretz Yisrael. Now, what is the real thing? The real Ikar Din is Biyachis Yisrael. So obviously, when they're in the land, Beis HaMikdash, Yovel, right, that is as much Israel as possible. But without the Yovel, we don't have that. Now remember, the Ikar Din is Yachis Yisrael more than anything. And what is the most Yachis Yisrael, if not the Beis HaMikdash? We just said Sinai, and that's why Yisrael went to Sinai. He went to Sinai and saw Moshe. Right? You don't get more literal than that. That's why Torah is Torah. Right? You learn what the halacha is. Look at Yisro went to Moshe. So just like Kriya Shema is not a mitzvah deraisa. What is a mitzvah deraisa? Lekabel ul malchus shemayim. The Rabbanim said, how do we makabel ul malchus shemayim? Make a takana where we're saying you will makabel ul malchus shemayim when you say Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Right? How do you Mekayim Oneg Shabbos? Rabbanan said 3 meals you will Mekayim Oneg Shabbos. How do you Mekayim Zechir and Shmir on Shabbos? You say Good Shabbos, you make Kiddush. Rabbanim have the right to say how to Mekayim a mitzvah. How do you Mekayim the Ger Toshav al Pidin? The Rabbanim established Ger Toshav, the land of Israel. That's where you get the Yovel from. But it's a takana. And so you're going to say, well, who gives you the right to uproot the takana? The Torah gives me the right. Because when there's no Yovel and there's no Beis Din, the Brisker Rav tells you it does not eliminate the rights of the non-Jews to take on Kabbalah, to take on the 7 laws. They are not putter from their din of Ul Malchus Shemayim. So how do they do it? They say by themselves Kabbalah, and where's their Biyachis by Yisrael? Sinai. But they weren't standing at Sinai because we're 3,000, 4,000 years later. So how do they do it? Torah. Torah gives them dinim that are particular to a ger toshav. There's no shaykhis to a stam ben Noach. So the Torah becomes the ikr biyachis Yisrael, bizman shows yovel lo noeg, and that's that one. All right. Now, what I was saying? Okay. Okay. Alright, now this is, I think, the Shabbos one. V'lo tikshe al zer de'eich yishmor Shabbos v'lo ger toishev gam kein asr lishmor Shabbos. Dezehu b'stam ger toishev shelo kibel alav rak sheva mitzvahs kenoeg v'im ken hu le'inyan shar mitzvahs kegoy gamor. That's interesting. I just noticed. This is very good. Did you cop that? Dezehu b'stam ger toishev. Shelo kibel alav rak sheva mitzvahs kenoeg. You see that? See that? Because in the land of Israel, the Vilna Gaon says a ger toshav has to take on 613. And that's where you get the third opinion of Avodah Zarah. So the ger toshav is only interested in ger toshav lefi the ger tzedek who doesn't take on Torah anything Jewish. And therefore, the lowest common denominator we said was ger toshav. He's calling him a stam ger toshav. So there's ger toshav and stam ger toshav. There's ben noyach, stam ben noyach. There's ger and there's stam ger. This is awesome. So now this is a lower level stam ger toshav. Masha Enkin should come alav od mitzvahs b'techilas l'giruso b'chlalam he gam kin Shabbos. See, he's making a distinction. He's different than the guy who's going to convert, right? Masha Enkin should keep alav od mitzvahs b'techilas l'giruso b'chlalam he gam kin Shabbos b'vada yochel l'kaimen b'choyev l'kaimen. Right? A non-stam ger toshav, meaning the Ketzat gerus more than our Ketzat gerus stam ger toshav. He's going to take on Shabbos lechachila because he's going to convert. So if it's Ksat Gerus, besides Stam Ger Toshav, he did not take on Jewish mitzvahs. So then the question is even bigger. How does he keep Shabbos like a non-Jew? V'had goy sheratzu lekabel kula Torah chutz b'dvar achad da'im akablin oso haina le'inyan lasoto Yisrael gamor aval lo le'inyan ger toishav Ksat samach lozeh matzati v'mad de'isa ezo ger toishav chachamim omrim Kol shekiba alav sheva mitzvahs b'nei noyach, v'lechem omrim kol shekiba alav kula mitzvahs chutz ma'yisr nevelus. Alma de lechem de bavadai chol kablaso al kol mitzvahs makom makom einanu b'chlal Yisrael kivan shishayir dvar echad. Remember, he left out one thing, the nevelus. So he's chashud the whole thing. Therefore, he's not Jewish. That's why you know he's not Jewish. Now, v'hu adin de lechamim. Im kibel chala kabbalah adkan l'shono v'roa divers Moshe Yavamus, right? But if he accepts it, the Shabbos by himself, chala hakabbalah, meaning the stam ger toshav can stam kabel on himself nikudot of mitzvot. So that's how you know he's not Jewish. Because if he was Jewish, right, kula Torah kula minus one thing is chashid the whole thing. You would say the bad convert go away. Here, not shaykh. Totally not shaykh. He's not converting. He's called Ksat Gerus or Stam Ger Toishev. You like that? Remember the Rive is going to argue, is explain the Rambam that even without the Yovel, we're still good for the Ger Toshav, just as not a full status, what the Brisker will say. I think we might be done. Way to go. Yeah, shkoyach. Now we'll close with the Brisker. Right there?
Yeah.
And this to me seems like the best way of really sizing this whole sugya up every time. And I'm just going to read through it again in Hebrew. All right, this is the brisker in the Mechtavim, the very last page of the book, 164. Moshe Ksav Be'inyin Ger Toishev Delo Dami Kablaso Legerus Shel Ger Tzedek Shenasa Al Yedei Yisrael Shenischayev Mitzvahs Aval Hacha Hari Gam Koidem Kabbalah Mechuyev Ubezayim Mitzvahs. He was obligated in the 7 before he accepted, right? V'hari hu la'achar Kabbalah kamo koidem Kabbalah. Did he change after the 7 acceptance? Same guy, nothing changed. But a convert changes. He can marry your daughter now, right? And he can't go back from that. B'vadai advar kain hu. Le'inye chiyuv mitzvahs lo nischarish al yidei kablaso shum davar. V'lo nitusfo alav shum chiyuvim al kul ben noach da'alma. Aval ma she'oisif hey dalad reish kim for that. What is that, man? I think it's like the Rambam or the Indian. Od the nimser shekol dino shel ger toshav eno ella. Here it is again. Ready? What is a ger toshav? He's saying, what is it? Biyaches lishivaso beinenu ba'aretz. Ze omer shenogel the ger toshav ba'atzmo. Lo nischanish al yedei kablaso davar v'kol atzmo umahuso shel ger toshavu rak biyaches leYisrael. Period. That's Sinai. That's what it is to go back to Moshe at Sinai. Rambam chapter 8, Malachim, halachas 10 and 11. Now, the rabbis are going to say, but that can be perverted. How do you know? So, kamo lahoshivo be'eretz v'kedoime. Right? A ger toshav really should be living in Israel to be a ger toshav. Then you know he's taken on the Torah, and that's why the Vilna Gaon says Taryag mitzvahs, but you need Yovel. So short of Yovel is the question. And the Ikar Din is B'Yachas Yisrael. The Takana is Eretz Yisrael. But the Ikar Din is B'Yachas Yisrael. The Alzehu Dinem Arkula Din, the Ein Ger Toishev Noyek Elabas Masha Yovel Noyek. Right? There it is. Right, on the spot. Alzer Teimani. I wondered. Dalo Arbed Dinim Yesh Ein Lehem Shum Shayachis Yisrael. Vehem Noyegim Rak Ger Toishev Bilvav Elubim Noyek. Certain things have no shayachis to a Jew, but only to a ger toshav and not to a ben noyach. The ben noyach shehorig b'shoyig noyrig v'ger toshav goyle. The kela inyan adin the kenoyim b'goyim bo b'voyer b'rabban einu noyig v'ger toshav v'od rabos keile. Hari the kabbalah shenasa al yad the ger toshav kadosh adinim gamlin ger toshav atzmo. The Torah chalaka ben ger toshav ben noyach. A ger toshav al pi Torah is not a ben noyach. Thus, when there's no Yovel, the Torah itself is Yachis Yisrael to the Ger Toshav and Dafka not to the Ben Noyach. The Ger Toshav is a reason to begin the Torah more than the Ben Noyach. If he goes back from being a Ger Toshav to become a Ben Noyach, since nothing essential changes, he goes back to being Ben Noyach the Alma. And he loses anything he had, because nothing was official. The begufo lo nischadish davar raka kol b'shvil kablasoi. Aval kol zman shehu aymin b'kablasoi hari hatoyra nitna lo dinim v'chalaka beno ubein ben noyek stama. He has privileges in Torah while he is in the matzav of ger toishev. Lefizeh garm ha'dina de ein ger toishev noyek elbus man sheyovo noyehu garm kin l'inikullah dim sheger toishev chalo behen b'shar ben noyek. Right, so the Yovel takes it to another darga, that even more privileges come to the ger toshav when there is a Yovel. So is it like with the Yovel we lose everything? That's the question. The The Iker Din of the Rambam is Yovel Ein Makablin, which is different from Kablaso. Notice that. Kabbalah and Mekablin are different things. Meaning, I am a judge and my three friends come up, we approach you, we can approach you. We look at you, we say, yeah, this guy just rejected a Avodah Zarah, he's a kosher Ger Toshav according to that. Now, can we pull you back into us in Israel Mekablin? No. We have the power to come to you, we don't have the power to draw you. Kabbalah versus Mekablin. Umamela de Huadin Kabin Noach de Alma, Ve'ayim B'Makom Makom Hilkos Saribia, Shiksav Gam Kim Poshut Kim Das Rambam, Ulam Das Ravid, there's your famous Ravid, Acheres Bezeh, as Bezeh, Direct Inyan Dinim, Miyuchtim Hu de Toloi Bezmashi Avonoyeg, only the things Shaykh to Yovel, we don't have access to, thus no Yovel, no additional access, but what is under the Yovel, i.e. not pertaining to Yovel, was, always will be Chal. Avoshitas Rambam, Kimap Shutak Mafreshis Canal. He says the Rambam is practically as simple as that. And they was only coming to say the additional stuff is with the Yovel. Don't try to say that you can get out of it without the Yovel. That, my friends, is there a Ger Toshav today on one foot? I hope you enjoyed it. Pause it, stop it, check it out. Take your time. Go in the sources. I hope this was entertaining but informative. Remember, the book is written for a certain style. The material is a certain style. The transmission is imperative. How you give it, what you say, when you say, how you say, who you say it to, what's said to you, what you say to them. It's a very serious holy Indian. Again, the book is ground level for non-Jews to understand biblically who and what they are. This stuff is the Talmudic side, so you know who and what they are. They are, you are, we are, how we are is up to the learning you do. Rav Hutner said it great with his Svara. They can elevate. We want them to elevate. The prophecies say they'll elevate. They will elevate. Our job is, when we have sovereignty, to make them elevate. Right now, we're strong in Israel in a certain way, and they are elevating. How you judge all of that is up to you. Be a Kiddush Hashem. Be a light to the nations. They're out there. They're coming to look for Torah. My advice to you is be prepared, and you have a tremendous opportunity to do a mitzvah of love the ger, don't taunt the ger, be a light to nations, and be a mensch, and be a Talmid Chacham. Learn the material. It's very geschmack. I promise you that, and I promise you, you will find that you'll become a better Jew for taking on board the mitzvah that Hashem warns 46 times. Do not taunt the ger, because Hashem loves the ger, and you should too. As I said in the beginning, it's kind of a poetic feel, and it's true. With that, I'll close. Thank you very much, and don't forget to love the ger.